Domestic violence can be either mental or physical violence. Domestic violence is a cycle. It doesn't usually happen just once. Usually there is violence, then there is a apology, a makeup, a honeymoon phase, and then violence again. It's a cycle. It just goes round and round. Quite often the person who is a perpetrator of domestic violence is going to try to convince the victim that it really wasn't the perpetrator's fault. It was the victim's fault. In most cases, it's a man that's being violent to a woman. Not always, but for purpose of this discussion, I will use that. Maybe he hit her. Well, if she hadn't had such a smart mouth, he wouldn't have hit her. It was her fault. She shouldn't have said what she said. She shouldn't have done what she did. Believe it or not, many victims buy that. They want to save their marriage. They're afraid of change, and they want to forgive. It's amazing how many people think they can change their spouse. That rarely happens. And someone that will commit domestic violence, usually they're going to do it again. It's a cycle. In Georgia, we have laws to protect the victim of domestic violence. You can file a family violence action. This is an action that you prepare and submit to the court, and you get a hearing that very day without the other party being present. The judge can hear it, and if the judge decides that there is, in fact, evidence of violence and that it is likely that that violence will continue, that's one of the tests, or that the victim is in danger of further violence, and the judge can enter a protective order and restrain the other party from doing all sorts of things, coming around the victim, perpetrating any further violence. They can award custody of the children. They can award the marital home. They can award duties to pay the bills, the automobiles, all the things that are necessary in order for the family to continue and the life to continue for the victim. That order is then given to a sheriff. The sheriff goes out and finds the perpetrator of the violence, serves them with this protective order, explains to them that if they violate this protective order, there are severe consequences for violation, and another court date is scheduled, usually within the next 10 days. At that 10-day hearing, both parties are given the opportunity to be heard, and a judge will determine if, in fact, the protective order will continue or it will be modified based on the facts and the circumstances that take place. Usually it's a magistrate court judge that hears these. In Gwinnett County, they're heard out at the Gwinnett County Jail. There are courts there hearing these things every day. It's amazing how much domestic violence there is that goes on within this county, this state, and this nation. But the domestic violence laws are there to protect these victims from abuse. Well, if there's a domestic violence action and you have an order under domestic violence, it has a strong impact on divorce. Usually a domestic violence case is followed by a divorce action, and it generally gives the parties some advantage in the divorce. If a judge sees there's been acts of violence, that is one of the factors that a court's going to consider in their decision-making of what's fair and reasonable under the circumstances, or custody of the children. The court's going to assume that the court in the domestic violence case made a sound decision based upon the facts that were presented, but those facts can be rebutted because the court knows that that domestic violence case was something that happened quickly and the parties didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare. But it quite often can give the victim an advantage in the divorce case in regard to custody and or division of property.